start with you, Cal.
Well, I was looking at who killed Lucy Beale in EastEnders.
Oh, please.
That's been a big story.
Okay.
You know,
don't tell me I've got it on like record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just tell him, please tell him.
Well, let's just put it this way. Somebody in America called Bobby Beale was wondering why she was getting hate tweets.
Oh.
Hate tweets. Wow.
People, hold on. People were sending hate tweets to somebody who's a fictional character.
Yeah.
Yeah, but her real name is Bobby Beale.
But they were still sending to a fictional character.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
The beauty of the beauty
It's
of the
working
world.
then. They're dumbing down with the entertainment.
Definitely working.
Well, something that caught my eye this morning. I don't really follow that much mainstream news. I tend to looking through the internet to see my news. But something about some schoolgirls who have claimed I've gone on a jihadi mission, flying out from I think it was Heathrow on Turkish Airlines to go on a help fight in the Syrian war, is it, or something like that? Maybe somebody else on the panel can elaborate.
I think they were flying from Gatwick, but they were like 15 and 16 years of age, and one of the girls. So actually, working with the airline, that's classed as an unaccompanied minor. However, you don't need to make yourself known at that age, even though you don't need to be escorted, but you do need to make yourself known. One of the girls used her sister's passport, age 17, but they never got stopped.
But you got away with it.
They got 3 of them. They all got away with it, and actually, they were interviewed by the police a few weeks prior to that because another girl from their same school had already gone. So to try and find information about the previous girl, they were interviewed by police. So apparently the school's on half term this week, so when they go back to school, apparently there'll be lots more interviews. But I heard lots of different things. I heard these girls didn't tell anyone, friends or family. They were dressed normally, but they were supposedly going to become brides of jihadists.
Yeah, I heard that.
That's what I heard.
I mean, the thing is, what's very strange is you can get onto a plane being that young and no real kind of checks. Yeah, you try and get your half-litre water bottle on the plane and they fling it from you, etc. etc.
Or you try getting on looking like a black man.
Yeah, exactly. Are you a black man, Ray?
Bonjour.
Exactly. So, I mean, I've heard the story, and it's like they're milking the story for what it really is. Talk to the parents. I mean, they're all these kids you'd imagine would have parents. Speak to the parents and say to them, why are you not looking after your children better? You know, the fact that the kids are... Let's remember, the police interviewed them X amount of weeks before. What for?
For the same thing.
So, clearly, they recognise that
they
these
were on the
girls...
radar.
Yeah.
But
they're still...
Allowed. Yeah.
Makes no sense.
Yeah.
But isn't there also when you go through the security area, don't they use biometric imagery when you go?
Not necessarily depending on what passport you have.
But
But how do you get past on somebody else's passport?
yes, it makes no sense.
With all these controls on borders, and how do you manage to do that?
Especially if you're on the radar.
Yes.
Yes.
You see?
Well, especially when you're non-white.
Who invented the radar?
Well, non-white and on the
I want to know
radar.
who's making these radars, because they ain't
Exactly.
working, obviously.
They don't work. So you see something.
It's clearly that other black man, Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
When you analyse the story, it doesn't make any sense. They're all on the front pages. Remember, these are the same newspapers that will have the Middleton story on there. So they're like red herrings. They don't really lead anywhere. You've got to question the authorities, because what will happen now, people will turn around and say we need to have more checks brought into place, which means that we're more policed.
Yeah.
Nonsense, you see.
But it also
Go on.
this also makes me believe, because obviously there's a Muslim agenda. We've spoken about this for the last few
Of
weeks.
course, yeah.
There's an agenda against Muslims, but in a way, it seems to me like we're going to stop people who are going to be Muslim. We believe that's going to happen. Certainly never happened. We discussed it with the IRA when the IRA bombings and stuff went off in the 70s and 80s. But they've also brought women into it now. So is this going to be? Are we going to start checking every woman who wears a hijab, niqab, etc. like that? Is this?
Well,
and also, is this going to be bringing more propaganda to the public about? Wow, these girls could be potential suicide bombers, aligning themselves with jihadists. You've got to be wary of every Muslim, not just the men.
Well, I was listening to a report, I think it was a police officer, and they were saying basically if the police in Turkey and or Syria were linked to the British police, then these girls wouldn't even get so far, because I think they've got to Turkey and they need to cross the Syrian border.
Okay.
But I think whether...
Well, I'm not being funny. Like I said, the fact that we're able to get to Gatwick is, a big thing in itself, because nobody missed them. And then they were able to go through and book a ticket and show the passports of their sister and still get onto the flight. It's one of those nonsense stories to me that getting us discussing. Not saying we shouldn't discuss it, us, but it's been printed, and the people who printed the story, all the journalists, they're not going to win not a single Pulitzer because it's poor story writing. The girls are young, they've gone abroad, the police had them on the radar, did nothing about it. And now it's become a story.
If you were writing a story, what would the headlines be?
If I was writing a story about these three, I'd say 3 girls go missing at the same time as Kate Middleton's hair's gone grey. Because clearly it's like, that make no sense. And you find whenever it doesn't make any sense, there's no sense to be had. It's like a bad news day. These girls can never be a danger, but it's more to do with bad parenting. And that if my daughter disappeared at the age of 15, so she's going to meet her boyfriend in Jamaica,
Right.
I guarantee that the minute she left the yard, 20 minutes later, I'm passing her on the motorway.
Exactly.
You see, so I don't get how this has come to pass. I don't get it.
I do think they lied, or they said they're going out for a day out.
I get all that.
Together.
Yeah, you lie as much as you want. You get to the airport. You expect the airport not to have more powers, but to do what the power they have.
Exactly.
Just do.
Exactly.
You know?
Again, my son's 14. If he's taller than me, if he turned up at the airport, that's when he's going to come unstuck now. Because no matter how clever you are, you're going to get, they're not seasoned travellers.
No, they're not.
They're going to be looking suspicious. They're going to be thinking,
So that's the question there then. Do you think they had help?
Well, you don't get from here to there.
Or at the airport?
Well, listen, the truth of the matter is this. They were on the police radar 3 weeks before. If I was on the police radar, right, do you think to yourself, I wouldn't even be able to wipe my own bottom without chicken picture going on?
Exactly.
So, it don't make no sense to me.
And let's say they are on this radar. They're on the internet communicating.
Yeah.
Is somebody not monitoring the have they got the husbands yet?
Yes.
Or are they just going to turn up, land in Syria and say, I'll have him? Is that how's it going to work?
Yeah.
How's it going to work? And are we assuming that when they land and they're with Syrians that they are now terrorists? Or we assume...
Yeah.
Really, they might just want to see the country.
That's right.
They might come back. Who says that they're terrorists now?
Yeah.
Who says they're terrorists? It says in the newspaper here, in the Times, that this is a trend. This is a growing trend. So obviously, it's happening more and more.
Not in this house.
So I tell you what then, stop British people going to Turkey then.
Well,
if that's the case, if it's a trend and there's a risk,
or vet the
Muslims, or vet them, and the same guy who vetted the radar stand at the passport control and say, no, she's not on the radar.
Of course.
Come on, I'm not even a trained policeman, but it's easy to work this out.
If you want to.
What it sends to me in all seriousness is the fact that basically once a week they want to talk about Muslims in the press.
That's right.
That's what we've been saying.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
It's front page on this, the Daily Mail, which is I wouldn't call it.
That's what it is. Just to remind you, there's a threat out there.
It's front page on the Guardian.
It's the front pages.
It's just to remind you there's a threat out there.
Of course.
And keep people. And this is why we don't want the Muslims. Blah blah blah.
That's the Muslim agenda.
Exactly.
Another story that doesn't make sense. Who in this room would be buying? No, actually, you couldn't buy it. Would want to have a one-way ticket to Mars? Why?
Well, that's an interesting story, right? Let's understand which people, once you colonise this country, this island, this planet, which people will be going there? Okay, who rules the world? Well, it ain't people of colour. Right? Now, what have people who have not got colour do? They go to your land, they make it their own, and before you know it, they enslave everybody. So the Martians, if I had to give the Martians any warning, I'd say they're coming to enslave you. Because this is what they do. Once they come to your place, they turn it into their American Disneyland or a plantation. So Martians, no matter how clever you think you are, you will be on some plantation called Mars. So for me, if someone said to me, would you like to go to Mars? I'd say, have you sorted out the radiation issues first? Right? They say, what are radiation issues? Well, to actually fly out the Earth's atmosphere, the spacecraft you're travelling in has to be 9 foot thick, made out of lead to shield you from the radiation. Now, if that is the case, the equipment we're seeing has to be very sophisticated, very expensive to make, and the people going have to be very important. Has anybody gone through the atmosphere yet? Well, I've never seen a single craft that is 9 foot thick with, you know, radiation shielding lead. Never seen it yet.
And do you know that another thing as well? They're only allowed to go outside for 3 hours every couple of years.
You know, again, it's one of those stories, right? The same people who wrote the story about Kate Middleton, who wrote the story about the 3 jihadist girls, has also wrote the story about the going to the mission to Mars.
It's a guy from a local lad actually, Derby.
Who's wrote the article?
No, 20-year-old who wants to go.
Yes, I think he was being interviewed. If it's the same guy, he was saying it's a great thing to do, to be one of the only people to, well, you'll be in another planet and starting a new civilization. The first other civilization except from Earth. What would make any human being, I mean, what IQ must you have to actually travel, you know?
All of them are like physicists and...
But delusional.
Yeah.
Because if you think you're the only persons living in the universe, what evidence have we got? Because you don't see something, don't mean it's not there.
I think the crux of the story, though, is Endemol, who brought us Big Brother reality TV. They're filming this. It's their project.
You know...
So whether this could be like the 69 landing on the moon?
Yeah.
Which was apparently on the moon. But there's so much evidence that points to it being done in the studio.
All I thought, you see, I won't even go into did they land, they didn't land. What I would ask is this, right? Every week we have a spring clean in the yard. We've not done it today, clearly. But if you run your finger across the glass table, you'll see a thin layer of dirt, right? Now, the reason why that happens is because of gravity. Gravity falls down on the Earth and things land on here and then line up what's happened. On the moon, gravity is less, it goes up, so they have to wear these very big suits that are very weighty shoes, so they don't get thrown into the atmosphere. So how comes when the man walks very slowly on the moon, he leaves this 1.5 to 2 inch thick footprint of dust on the moon? If there's no gravity, why is it not going up? So why is this man clearly heavier than specks of dirt? But the general public hear this, watch the program, watch the man doing a Steve Austin thing slowly across the screen and say it must be true because it's on telly. Not believing. You see, when you're from the Caribbean, one of the things you grow up with is that you understand you can have different names for the TVs, but they all call the same thing: television. They all lie. You put them in front. You put your children in front of them, and you get them to brainwash your children while you go and do whatever you're doing, making your tea, making your coffee. Your child is being brainwashed. It's all lies. So mission to Mars. Let's have mission to, you know, if we can fly to another planet. I hear that, but I want to know, how do you get past the atmosphere? How have they solved that problem? I don't believe it.
And just to finish on that, how can they warrant the money to spend?
You see?
How could I talk about my neighbour's garden if my garden ain't clean and looking good? So rather than spend that money to go elsewhere, let's spend that money on starving in Africa.
100%.
You know, let's spend that money on the refugees in Afghanistan.
Yes.
We ain't finished here yet. We've got a lot of work to do here.
That's right.
Why are we going somewhere else? Why are we making it worse?
Yeah.
Why are we making it worse? That's a lot of money. That
Yes.
is a lot of money. And I don't know where the money's come to fund NASA's things. I got my own theories about that. But
It's all taxpayers' money, isn't it?
well, and who knows? For all I know, you don't even need an oxygen mask on Mars. For all I know, they're just saying that to keep us here.
Of course.
You know, I don't know. I can't believe them because they said that the war you'd fall off the edge.
Yes.
You know, so that might just be a way of controlling us.
100%. I don't believe anything they say.
So
People
I'm
say,
not believing it.
No.
No.
How do you know when they're lying? Well, their lips move and they
Exactly.
give you propaganda
Sounds
nonsense.
And for America, the leading country in this, space travel and stuff, let's look at their track record of lying.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
They specialise in that.
What are we saying now? Okay, so the last 20 years we haven't lied no more. We used to lie, but we ain't lying now. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so you used to lie, but you're not lying now.
That's right.
I believe you.
Of course. But I'm lying again.
Come on.
That's right.
Come on. You know, I can't believe looking at their track record, And this is nice because I've got a track on my album called Lies, by the way. But the thing is, I can't believe somebody that's been lying for generations. I'm not just going to start believing them now, you know.
And remember, the leaders of the, even though you've got a black man in charge of
Black Man Ray
in charge of the US government at the moment. Right. Let's be honest, he's not the person that's controlling everything.
He's the butler.
Yes, he is. He is. So you're right. How can we believe people that have got the same track record of lying constantly? Whether people believe it or not. I mean, they've got this thing, especially in British politics as well, called a 30-year rule. Mm-hmm. And it's basically they don't disclose information for 30 years after the event. No. Right, and I guarantee you when Princess Diana's papers get released 30 years on, nobody's going to give, because that's gone. How many people remember her story of her dying? How many people care now? I mean, I remember the country come to a virtual standstill when it happened. We were ready to overthrow the monarchy because the Queen hadn't come out and spoken about it. Now, do people really remember the date of her anniversary? Do people care? The amount of people that went to Allthorpe Park to go and, you know, pay homage to this woman and to give flowers, they don't care. So this is why the 30-year rule comes out. The reason is, if it is a lie now, in 30 years' time, are you really going to care? So much so that even with the Falklands War, that's a 100-year rule on that.
Wow.
Yes, it's a 100-year rule. The reason why it's a 100-year rule is they don't want to disclose it. They're saying it's national security. That's the overall blanket that they use. But it isn't. There's stuff that's gone on there that 100 years from now, people aren't going to care about.
Yeah.
They're not,
yeah.
Do people care if anything major went off in the First World War? If you just say it was a farce, it was all orchestrated, how many people are going to bat an eyelid at it now 100 years on? They're not going to care. And you know, they did the same thing with the raiding of the Golden Temple in India, which was 30 years ago. We found out now, after the disclosing of the documents, that the British government were complicit in Operation Blue Star in giving information. And they thought the Sikhs aren't going to give a toss, basically, about it. But we are. We're trying to take the government to court because of it. Because this is something that we believe in that needs to be done. You know, a lot of people won't action it, but we are going to action it. We're going to do something about it, because you can't allow these governments to keep getting away, producing rules where they're going to keep locking information away for 30 years. Yeah. Because 30 years is a long time. That's
a lifetime.
Yeah, it's a lifetime.
Of course.
For some people.
But they're known to do it though. Look at the opium wars in China. You know, they took opium to China to get tea.
Yes.
So, and I'm supposed to believe these people, you know, and at the end of the day, bottom line, what do they do when we find out? Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's like when you're talking about opium now, Afghanistan. What was the real reason why they hit Afghanistan? Why? Because 5% of the world's opium come from Afghanistan, right? Because it was being controlled by the Taliban, and only 5% was getting through. But Afghanistan has got the best opium in the world. So what do? They tried to overthrow all the people that are doing it, and now 95% of the world's opium comes from Afghanistan.
Wow. What a coincidence, eh?
Has to be.
What a coincidence.
Gotta be a coincidence.
We're going to finish there. This has been ZeN TV, discussing news that matter, things that's got our attention, delving a little bit deeper. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.